Never approach a moving trash bag in the darkness. When I was 12 years old, my parents sent my brother and I to a week-long camp in the mountains of North Carolina near Boone. And my brother pleaded and cried for my parents not to leave him in Johns River Valley camp, where we would swim in the river, and he looked at the hills and all the critters that would be in those woods. And I, on the other hand, looked at this new wonderland and thought, I have found nirvana. I would explore those woods with the tenacity of Lewis and Clark. I would join the Polar Bear Club and plunge into the river at 6 a.m. every morning. I would make silly pinecone bunnies. I would cook hot dogs over the fire. I would hike. I would learn how to use a bow. I would fish, and I would love every minute of it. But one day, or one night, when I was going from the cabin to the bathhouse, I was moving along in the darkness when I saw on the ground a moving trash bag. Now, I have heard of these things, but never encountered it. And I had received an education through Saturday morning cartoons and the infamous stalker skunk, Pepe Le Pew, who tried to make you think he was a cat, but he always stunk. And when I saw the black and white tail peeking out the back of that moving trash bag, I quickly moved away. That was no cat. And fortunately, I did not get skunked that night, but that same week, someone else did. And every year, when I returned to Johns River Valley Camp, someone or something was a victim of the odoriferous night beasts. Now, in my future adventures, there were many creatures I ran across, both dangerous and fragrant. But there was one wily forest warrior I had yet to encounter. When my daughter was 8 years old, years later, I took her for her first camping trip. And we had hot dogs on the fire, and we had some brownies that we brought with us. And because there were no bears in this area, I had taken the cooler and put it on a picnic table, and I had taken a big Rubbermaid container of brownies and put it on top of it. I did tie the trash bag up in the tree just to keep away the stinky denizens of the night. And then we went to bed. And in the middle of the night, I hear a sound. And I don't know if it's human or animal. So I start to slowly unzip the tent to look out. And there, by the light of the moon, is a squirming trash bag. Now, I freeze. I don't breathe. I knew if my daughter got skunked, I would never be able to bring her camping again. So I sat there and I stared and I held my breath and I saw two lit eyes appear in the opening of that trash bag. And I stared at them and they stared at me, and I kept thinking that a tail was going to turn around and lift, and that would be the end. And as I stared at those golden eyes in the darkness, my peripheral vision picked up the rope lying on the side. And I thought to myself, can skunks climb? I mean, some people call them polecats, And incidentally, just if you're wondering, yes, they can climb. But they can't untie ropes. And as this is dawning on me, two little white hands come out of the edges of the bag, and a cute little mask face pops up. And he looks at me with his raccoon eyes, challenging me, and I yell, "Aha!" Now, he runs, but not into the woods as you would expect. He bounds up onto the picnic table, grabs my Rubbermaid container full of brownies, and absconds into the woods. And I yell, "Darn you, you little rascal!" But that's not what I really said. And I slap my shoes onto my feet, and I grab my flashlight, and I go bounding out into the darkness after that raccoon. Now I'm running around in the darkness, my flashlight bouncing before me, and I think, this is really stupid. I am in Canyonlands. I am a Darwin Award waiting to happen. So I stop, and I hear my daughter calling back in the camp. And so I start to turn, and as I start to turn, the light of my flashlight shines upon him. And he's sitting there on his haunches, the Rubbermaid container right in front of him, the lid thrown off to the side. His little cheeks are packed with chocolatey goodness. Both of his little white hands contain a brownie. And I'm not really able to act because this is just too cute. And I stand there staring at him, and he is completely surprised, and he's staring at me. And neither one of us do anything. And as we're staring at one another, his little jaws start to move up and down. And I can't help myself. I laugh. And he jams those brownies in his hands into his mouth and then cuts for the woods. And I just sort of sigh, and I pick up my Rubbermaid container, now containing brownie crumbs, and I start walking back to the camp. And I'm thinking, raccoon, 2 dozen, Barb, 0. So I get back to the camp, and my daughter is not upset that the brownies are gone. She is upset that she didn't get to see the raccoon. So the fortunate thing is we did not get skunked that night. We just got taken by the Robin Hood of the forest. Now, every time I go out into the woods, I like to take back a few lessons, and there's 3 I would like to share with you. The first one, my daughter ended up enjoying the outdoor experience. And when she was 12 years old, she went to Johns River Valley Camp. Never got skunked, though. The second one, it is good advice not to approach a moving trash bag in the darkness. However, sometimes when you stay away from danger too much, you lose something good. And the third, and perhaps the most important thing, when we go out into the wilderness and we see these beautiful creatures, we have to remember it is not our home, it is theirs. And they have every right to abscond with anything we bring into their dwelling. Thank you.